Now is the hands-on on Kubernetes and AKS.
That's it. You asked me to create a Kubernetes cluster on Azure and show you how to create a Kubernetes cluster.
Yeah.
And let's go. I have the the Microsoft Azure Portal open. I just came here on a Kubernetes Service Blade. Just click here. And then you go add a new cluster. I have one cluster here, but let's try to create a new one and see what you need to create a new cluster, okay? When you open the Kubernetes creation, what we call blade, we call these things on the portal blades. And on that one specific, I have multiple tabs. You can see here, you can flip the tabs. You can use the buttons at the bottom to navigate as well. But what do you need? You need to pick your subscription. I'm going to get my MS10 one here, and I'm going to create one micro or
Azure.
Let's say AKS Azure. Okay, Azure Kates. It's a new version. And let's copy this. We're going to create a resource group called, Azure Kates. We're going to create a cluster called Azure Kates. I'm going to pick a Australian region here because I'm in Melbourne. Got it, Sydney.
Yes, the closets.
First important thing here, Kubernetes version. AKS Microsoft support 2 versions back from the main version that's in production. That's a 16.9 at the moment. Then you go 15 and 14. Once 17 go into production, it will be July 1st now, 2020. Then 14 will be not recommended anymore. You'll be removed for new clusters, but it will be supported for some time until you migrate. And that's how it works. And we have now 2 versions in preview going ahead, 17 and even 18. Let's try the latest one. That's a test. Go 18. Then look, Kubernetes a cluster like we discussed on part 1 of this video, Fernando, and you need to pick the size of your nodes, the VMs that we discussed before. And you just click here, node size, and pick a VM. I don't have much credit on my subscription. I look the price here. That's the cheapest one.
Yes, but don't choose bootstrapable VMs on production, right?
Correct. That's a good point. Don't go for those. Depend on your workload. Maybe that's not like a good one for productions. Maybe you go for this one in production. But you need at least 2 cores. I would recommend this one. Then the price is still cheaper. I go that one. I just want to create like 2 nodes. Recommended production at least like 3 nodes. And that's what we call Linux nodes. Okay, let's go next one. You can navigate here. You can see that they have my pool, my 2 Linux nodes, B2S that we just selected. Josh, can I create a second node pool like we saw on your first part? Yes, you can click here.
Yes, like a Windows pool, like in the presentation.
We can just go say Win pool 1, Windows. Let's get just 1 or even 2 nodes on Windows. Let's change the size as well. Let's see, you can see the same price thing.
The cheapest.
Let's leave that one. Let's leave that one for Windows. I think probably need a little bit more power.
You need to choose the node size.
Yes.
You need to select.
Yeah, that's not available for Windows, but let's go.
Yes.
Let's go that one. Okay, you have 2 pools. That's very nice. Can I have more? Yes, you can have more. Then you start having what we have on AKS called add-ons, like extra features that you can switch on and off. And the nice thing is anything that you set like virtual nodes is always fully managed by the AKS cluster itself. And virtual nodes, that's what we discussed. Remember the serverless ACI integration that was in green on the previous video? That's exactly what you can do here. If you don't know how it works, just click here, look documentation. There's a nice documentation about ACI and how you can integrate that. Because we are using multiple node pools, we need VM scale sets. Microsoft on VMs have two types: have availability sets and have scale sets. To be able to use multiple node pools, you need scale sets. Okay, then there is not much option here. Authentication, what that means? How are we going to, what kind of authentication we need to, from the cluster, talk with the Azure service, like load balancer, public IPs. You can use service principals, even get an existing service principal that you have. Okay, service principals is like the Azure identity, where you're going to, assign roles for that identity. Or you can just say, Azure, can you create a fully managed service, manage identity, and you'll be assigned dynamically to the cluster. That's a nice way to do it because you don't have to be, caring about service principal, renew service principal after 1 year or 2 years. This way.
Okay, let's choose the easiest way.
That's the easiest way, I think. Now go for fully managed. And now it's available even on the Azure Portal. Before it was just when you create the cluster from command line. Now it's available here. And please always leave role-based access control enabled. Kubernetes is not really safe when you disable that. Things like Helm, like how to separate the workloads on namespace is not safe. You need role-based access control on Kubernetes. Then it's a no-brainer here. It's how Kubernetes manages role-based access control inside the cluster itself. Okay, how we isolate workloads inside the cluster, for example, using namespace. Going forward, you're going to see networking, how it works. We have two types of network on AKS, basic and advanced. Because we are using node pools, we cannot use the basic one. We have to use advanced, and it's already selected for us. Means that we are going to connect this cluster on the Azure VNet. That's why we're creating Azure AKS VNet that will be created for us. We're going to, to keep the standard values. That's why you're going to what we call pod network that you're going to select. That's pretty much what the address range for pod network for the service. And if you select the Azure CNI policy, I think that's the easy way to use the normal Kubernetes policy, but you can go for things like Calico for more advanced network policy. That's very good. It's an open source project. There are paid versions as well. And you're just keeping, that's the DNS prefix for your cluster that you'll be using this one. The load balancer that you're going to use for the cluster itself will be a standard. Okay, Azure has two types of load balancers. One is basic, another is standard. Because you're using node pools, there is no option. You cannot use basic anymore. We need the standard one. And the nice one when you use a load balancer standard that you can use even what you call availability zones. That is also available on Kubernetes in preview. You can have availability zones. It means that I don't have to deploy things on. I could have nodes on different availability zones, and using this load balancer to do load balance for the application.
This is new.
That's new. That's new. That's only available when using load balancer as standard and using the advanced network. It's not available here on the portal yet, but command line you can use availability zones already. It's not available in all Azure regions, but there are some Azure regions with availability zones, and Kubernetes is one of the services where availability zones is available, but is in preview for Kubernetes but it's something nice. It's something for another video. But keep in mind that. And routing, if you want to have ingress controller connect with Azure DNS, let's enable here. That's maybe you guys can have a look how that works. But just for development, not recommended for production because it's like a single instance. ingress controller for Kubernetes. But that's it. That's pretty much you have to set. If you wanna to do more advanced network, just look the documentation. If you're connecting these on existing VNet and you need to change the IP range, then you can look documentation. Another thing now that we have, we can even create a container hash from here. Because I want to create a new, what's that? That's what they call Docker Container Registry. Microsoft has what we call Azure Container Registry, where all Docker images will be stored. There is very advanced, features depending on the layer that you select here. I'm going for the, for the standard for now. Just go in Australia East region and just go the same name. I think is there it AKS, and ask them to also create a container hash for us, where you're going to store the, the image that you're going to deploy on the cluster.
This is also new, right? This feature.
Container hash is what you call ACIs there for a while, but now you can create, when you create the cluster, we can also create the container hash.
This integration is new. The
integration with the portal is new. And the nice thing here, when you do that, you also connect this container hash with your cluster. Means that the cluster is going to have access to your container hash without you have to pass credentials. Understand? That connection is already done automatically for you. Means that it's very easy to run something inside the cluster because all the connections are already done. Another thing is monitoring. You can, use Azure monitoring log analytics to connect. Let's create that. It's going to create a new log analytics workspace for you. If you have existing workspace, you can just select here. If not, just create a new one. And that's it. And you go for,
Thanks.
Cluster creation. They're going to do a final validation. We can leave creating here and go for a cluster that I've created before. Okay, pass validation. I go and say, go, hit create. In the meantime, what we can do, we can go for the cluster that I have created, called, Kubernetes Azure demos. When you create the cluster, they create like two resource groups. One is called, the name of the cluster. Another is start with MC. The first one is where, the main configuration of the cluster is, and your VNet is, like all the shared servers are. And the other one is pretty much this specific cluster, where the load balancer is, where the VM scale set for your node pool is, and the security group and IP, public IP, because we're exposing this cluster to the internet. Means that we can access the cluster from my local machine without using any proxying. If you go, Fernando, if you go inside the cluster first, that's the cluster, okay? That's the cluster configuration that we just did it. A little bit different this one, I think, because I have just one node pool. But you can see the node pools. Let's say this one I create with a single Linux node pool in one single node. But I can just come here now and create my Windows pool if I want. Yeah, I can come here. I can also create a Windows pool one here. Select the same way that we did before. Means that can be done. The Windows node can be, added later. You don't have to do upfront. If I have a Linux cluster and you want to play with Windows now, you can come here and do the same thing. Let's just create one, okay? That's just for testing, and then that's it. They're going to create a pool for us. And you can see that I'm using the latest version as well, 1.18.2. And you can see all my configurations here. Nice thing that you can see here is like insights. But I don't think I have enabled on this class. Let's see if I have enabled. Yes, I have. See, on an existing cluster, you can see the health of my cluster. You can see the nodes. Say I have a single Linux node. The Windows nodes are being created, not showing here yet. I can see everything that's running inside my cluster. That's why I have another tab called containers, but you can see here that I have, let's say, containers, the dashboard's running here. And you can even see, metrics directly from the container that's running.
This is automatic. When you create the pool, you get these insights from the.
When you connect your cluster with log analytics, you're going to with Azure Monitoring, you're going to have these out of the box, and yeah, you can see everything that's running inside each node, or you can go for containers itself. See, that's things are running. See, microbot was running. That's what we're going to deploy to test. You can see the Kubernetes dashboard running here. And you can even see the environment variables. You can see the Kubernetes deployments now in preview. It's pretty much a Kubernetes dashboard inside Azure. Yeah. See, I have see, let's go here for the command line. What I did, I connect my cluster. Okay, if you don't know Azure CLI, that's the Azure command line that I explained that you need, recommended for you to install. Is one thing you can say, Azure AKS get credentials. If you go and look the help for that, you can see that you can grant credential for a specific cluster. And if you say that you want to admin credential, that's what I did. Azure AKS grant credentials, you put the name of the cluster, the resource group where you deploy, and you set -A. That's going to give you the credentials that you need to run, kubectl nodes. And you're going to have access to the cluster. Because if you go kubectl here, and one of the commands is kubectl. Okay, let's go back to the top. Kubectl config. What config does? Config, you can say get contexts. Those are the classes that I have on my local environment here. Then you can see that the current environment is the Azure Demos admin that I'm connected. But if I want to switch, I can switch, I can set and switch my context to another cluster. Then I can manage multiple clusters here. And that's exactly what you're doing here. At the moment, I'm using the one that I'm connected, and I'm getting nodes. I have one node, and hopefully you can see the Windows nodes soon here. If you say get all, by the way, the command is kubectl, Fernando. Okay, I just create an alias, and I'm using just K to be a short version, but the command is kubectl or kubectl. And you can see that I don't have anything deployed here. Fernando gave me a test here called, how is that, Fernando? Microbot. Let's deploy that. There are two ways that we can talk with the Kubernetes cluster. Remember, Kubernetes is an API. We have to call this API using gRPC, and kubectl can do that for us. And one thing we can do is say kubectl or K, because I'm using alias, create a deployment using this Docker image that's on Docker Hub. And let's call this microbot, and let's create that. When you go and look the deployment, okay, I'm not going to explain namespace, but that's inside what they call default namespace. But there are different, you can create multiple namespace inside Kubernetes. And that's why I'm saying kubectl get all, but I'm saying namespace default. Then I'm just looking, things inside the namespace default. Because default, I don't have to say namespace default. But if you're using multiple namespace, keep in mind that. Then that's it, Fernando. It's running.
Is it? It's running.
Oh, I have a problem. It's running inside the cluster.
Yes. How can you expose that?
That's what we call cluster AP. There's two ways you have to do. One way we can do, we can do a kubectl for a quick test that works. That's what we call port-foward. I think you did that another day. And I can go straight to the pod. Okay, I can say, I want to do a port-foward for this port. My computer, I'm going to use port 8085, okay, from my local PC to port 80 of the pod. Pod is like a container. And once I do that, what means? I just go for localhost here, go in my browser. That's it.
It's running.
That's running. Great.
Oh, Jorge, thanks. Nice introduction to Kubernetes, the part 1 and part 2 of the video. It's a lot of information who is getting to Kubernetes. It's a good start.
It is. And if you want to go a step forward and you want to expose that to Fernando to look from his computer there, Fernando, you can do that. You can expose that deployment microbot as a load balancer on port 80, okay? And what that does, remember that when you create the cluster, we said we need a managed identity for Azure to talk with, to the AKS cluster to talk with the Azure service?
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened here. Our cluster is going to talk with, Azure. It's going to create a load balancer on Azure. Going to create a public IP, and it's going to give the public IP for us here. If you go back on the cluster creation here, not on the cluster creation, because on the cluster that I have already, let's close this one. You can see that there's a public IP being created here. Look.
Yes, already created. If you
already
run the command again,
if you go back there you go. See that public IP? If I copy here and I open my browser now, I have it.
Oh, it's working.
Running
it's working on the internet.
If you have a DNS, just point to this public IP, and now you have a exposed application running on the internet. And that's how Kubernetes works. That's just from the command line. If you want to use YAML files, there's another video that we can make, but that's the base of Kubernetes. Yeah. And not sure if the cluster, it looks like the cluster is failing. There's some conflict. Not sure if you can go back on my clusters. That's the cluster that we try to create. Is in fail state in this moment. I think I put too much at the same time there.
Yes, but it's all good. I think this is a good idea to record a next video teaching how to deploy Kubernetes from YAML files, because everything on Kubernetes works based on YAML files, right? You apply the Kubernetes, the YAML files.
Correct. Now you have how to create a cluster to get your credential to work locally, or you can use from Cloud Shell, and you can deploy something, use command line, and hopefully they help. Thank you so much, Fernando. Talk soon.
Thank you, Jorge.
Thank you, everyone.